Hey, everybody. Good evening. It's Friday. The weekend is here. I'm Nate Eaton. This is Courtroom Insider. Thanks for being with me tonight. Coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, where it is warm. It is beautifully warm. It is hot, I should say. I spent the day exploring, looking around because there was no court today. No trial on Friday here in Arizona. And it was, I got to admit, it was a nice little break. But we're not taking a break here tonight on Courtroom Insider. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Larry Woodcock is here. And we also have a bunch of other things to talk about, including the witness list. Many of you have messaged me saying, well, who's left? If the state's already halfway done, who's left? I'm going to go over that in just a minute for you so you can see who will be testifying next week, and also Lori's witness list. Did you catch the Kay Woodcock moment? So I got to say that I did not catch this in the courtroom because the acoustics are different in there. You actually, if you're watching at home, hear a lot more than we do sometimes because the mics are more sensitive when you're watching a video versus in the courtroom. I'm going to play it for you. It was great. It was great. And I posted it earlier today on my page, and a lot of you had some interesting opinions about it. We're going to play that. We have juror Tom Evans. He was a juror, not a juror in this case. Let me make that clear, but he was a juror in Lori's Idaho case, and he has been attending every day. He's written a couple of books about the trials, Lori's and then Chad's, and then he's writing a third one right now. Get his thoughts about what he thinks happened this week. Of course, I mentioned Mr. Larry Woodcock is joining me on Zoom. He's not here in Phoenix, and he'll tell you why. Many of you have wondered where he's at. And your reaction on camera, I got to say, I was blown away. Last night, I asked each of you if you wanted to send me a 10-second clip of your number one takeaway from the trial so far. I'm stunned at how many of you responded. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm stunned to see, too, the difference in how many of you have a bunch of different thoughts that I hadn't even occurred to me. And then many of you have thoughts that I think we all might agree with. So I'm going to play a bunch of those here in just a minute. And also, kudos to you for following the directions and keeping it to 10 seconds. Not one of you went over. So I'm just impressed. So my voice just cracked there. Maybe I'm going through puberty or something, this Arizona dry air. Anyway, I want to play a bunch of those, and don't worry if I didn't get to yours today. We'll probably play more as the week goes on. And then we of course will remember Charles, who is no longer with us. Okay, so we know that the state has 21 witnesses. Here was the original list that they put out. You can see that they have several from the Chandler Police Department, Chandler Fire, Department of Public Safety, the Office of the Medical Examiner, the Office of the Inspector General, Banner Life Insurance, and civilians. Well, they went through 12 this week. Here's who is left. From the Chandler Police, we have Nathan Duncan, Jason Hunsaker, Nathan Moffat, Ariel Werther, and Cassandra Youngklin. We have heard from all of these people in the past in Idaho, except Jason Hunsaker. I don't believe we've heard from him. We've heard from Duncan, Moffat, Werther, and Youngklin. Then we also have the Department of Public Safety witness, Jeff Moberg. We have the medical examiner, Dr. Derek Baumgartner, and we have heard him referenced up to this point, but we have not heard from him in Arizona. Mark Sari, we heard him in Idaho. He's with the Office of Inspector General, and Robin Smith Scott with Banner Life Insurance. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 witnesses left. And I got to be honest, I don't think some of these will take very long to testify. Some may take longer, but I think that by this time next week, the state might be done or very close to done. That's just my pure speculation. I don't have an inside track, but I think that they're going to buzz through a lot of these witnesses, and then others, like the medical examiner, he might take a little bit longer, but that's who's left. Now on Lori's side, so once the prosecution goes through all of their witnesses, then Lori can call up her witnesses, we think. The issue is that Lori's team did not get out subpoenas. In fact, just this week, some people started getting subpoenas. One witness I know got a subpoena yesterday that told them to show up in court the day before. But the prosecution state is still going on. The judge addressed this the other day in court and said, what do you want your witnesses to do? They're being told to show up at this time and that time. And she said, have them call my private investigator. So So you have that issue of confusion over the dates and whatnot. But the second issue is that the witness list was filed late, past the deadline. And so is the judge even going to allow them in? Especially her expert witness, Lonnie Dworkin. Lori wanted to have him brought in to tell the judge what he could do or discrepancies. I'm not really sure what she wants him to tell the judge. And the judge had floated the idea of possibly holding a hearing today to talk about that, but that didn't happen. So we'll see what happens. But Lori's list for her witnesses are herself, which I think we all kind of want her to take the stand. She did not in Idaho, but remember, if she takes the stand, she cannot ask herself the questions. Someone from her team has to, and they have to be pre-written, so she can't just give a monologue. She can know what the questions are for sure and prepare herself, yes, but she can't know what the prosecution's going to ask her. And they can ask her whatever she opens the door to with her defense, they can follow up with. So we'll see if she takes the stand. She just might. She just might. Any and all individuals who have spoken with any witness, that is extremely broad, and I don't know what that means, and the judge is not going to, I don't know how that's going to work. Custodian of records for any and all exhibits. I was on the list. I've been struck from the list, so I will not be testifying. Vicea, Gabrielle Bonilla. Vicea was Tylee's one of her best friends. Gabrielle Bonilla, who I believe was the bishop of Lori and Charles. Joseph Ponsgratz, who was the landlord of the home. Ashlyn Rind, who was a friend of Tylee's. She testified in Idaho. Barry Cox is Lori's father. Zach Cox is Adam Cox's son, who was referenced the other day. Adam Cox, who's already testified, so I don't think he'll be back. She might call him back. Janice Cox, her mom, Summer Shiflett, and her sister, and Brandon Boudreau. He has been struck from the list without prejudice, meaning if Lori can prove that he is needed, that he can add value to her defense, he can be brought back. So that is her witness list. Will she go through all those, or will it just be her? I guess we'll see. So yesterday, Kay took the stand, and the moment I was just talking about, it's short, it's memorable. Here is what happened as Trina Kay finished her questioning of Kay, and as Lori stood up to approach the lectern to question Kay. You catch that? She said, oh boy, and took a drink of her water. By the way, many of you have asked about that cough. That is not me. That is not me with the cough. I do know and will admit that the past 2 trials I have come down with a cough, especially in Chad's, and the first one with Lori. Here, I actually did have last week I didn't have much of a cough. I did feel a little off. I think the change in climate and everything. I feel great this week, though. That is not me coughing. You'll notice the judge has coughed a bit. I don't think he's coughing into his mic, but he also has a few assistants around the courtroom who are on the mic. And Lori also has defense people who are on the mic. It's a male coughing. So I don't know who the cough is. It's not me. And these courtrooms seem to bring out sicknesses in more than one way, I guess you could say, with these crimes. So I'm not coughing. Kay said, oh boy, as Lori went up to question her. And it was, if you missed all the testimony from any of the witnesses, we've got it all on our YouTube channel. All right, Tom Evans, I want to jump over to his interview. He was on Lori Vallow's case in Idaho, and he since has kind of taken it upon himself to really explore this issue, the crimes, religion aspect of this whole case. He wrote a book after Lori's trial, and then he wrote a book after Chad's trial, and now he's writing, he says, his final book about it. And he has been in court every day with the Arizona one, says that there are several differences between Idaho and Arizona, obviously not just with the case, but with the court system in general. I caught up with him after court yesterday, and here's our interview. All right, so Tom, tell me your thoughts. You've been here a week now and for jury selection. What are your thoughts?
Some of it's been really interesting. Some of it's been really hard to sit through, kind of monotonous. We got to get a whole college course on latent fingerprints that led absolutely nowhere, except that I think One thing it did tell me was that Charles probably didn't grab the smooth part of the bat because his fingerprints would have been there and they would have been able to see those.
Right.
So I guess we got that out of that. Having Adam testify, that was good. I think it was probably good for him to get that in his past. Same with Kay. That was interesting. I liked seeing her testify and didn't get much from Lori. I was expecting more questions from Lori to Kay.
What have you thought about Lori through the week?
Yeah, I kind of thought we'd see her crack before now. I really did think that. I thought that she was going to just have a fall apart and not be able to really follow through. And I don't think we've seen that. But I think she would probably have to admit that maybe she hasn't been as good at this as she thought she would be. I think that she realized with certain witnesses that she probably is better off not to ask the questions that she might have asked and just kind of let things go.
There's been some witnesses where she's been quite fiery, kind of the more personal witnesses.
Exactly.
The other day with Nancy Jo, the one that went on a date. What did you think of that exchange?
That was really good. Nancy Jo was great. She stood up to Lori, and I think that might have taught Lori a little bit of a lesson. Like maybe these people aren't afraid of me anymore. Or maybe my skills that I used to have aren't working anymore.
When you think back to 2 years ago right now, you were sitting in the jury in Idaho, and now you're here observing this jury. Do you ever put yourself in their shoes?
I do, yeah. I not only put myself in their shoes and think about what they're going through and what questions they might have, but just kind of feel for them at the same time. Like I think they're probably at this point kind of catching on, like there's more to this case than what they might have realized. And theoretically, they don't know what that more is. I'm guessing some of them might know some. I mean, there's no reason that some jurors wouldn't know something about this case. I think that would have probably been okay when they were doing the jury selection if they had an idea, but I don't know.
What do you think about the different jury procedures here? The fact that, we see them out and about. I mean, it's quite different than what you went through.
So different. Yeah, we were whisked into the basement with armed guards and everything and totally isolated from any contact with the outside. Everything but sequestered. Yeah, this jury, we're sitting there eating lunch and talking about the case and turn around and there's a juror there, so we quickly realized we have to be a little bit careful about that. I don't think their process was selective enough. We lost 2 jurors right off the bat. They, after all the opportunity they had to claim hardship or whatever, they didn't do that until it was just down to the 16. And really it was too late for them to do that, but they did it anyway. So now there's down to 2 alternates. So hopefully that's going to be okay.
Now tell me, you wrote the 1 book, you wrote the 2 books now. Tell for people that aren't familiar with that, tell me about your books and why you've decided to continue to follow this case well after your service.
For the first book, between the time of the end of the trial and the sentencing, I really contemplated, should I do this or should I not? My initial thought was that the high road would be for me to just go on with my life and not to write about it or make it about me in any way. But after contemplating it for a while, I realized that the actual high road would be for me to write books, tell about the story. At the time it wasn't books, it was 1 book. Tell the story, because there's a lot more to all of this that I think needs to be told. So I decided to do that. By the time I was done with the first book, I still had so many questions. We went through the Chad Daybell trial a year later, and I couldn't, the first book wasn't enough. So then the second book, which is done now, it's out and available, going into the third book that I hope to finally put it all together with.
And is the third book based on this trial?
It's going to be less about the trial and more about the whole case. I mean, we'll see what happens here, and if there's a lot of interesting stuff, I'll certainly write about it. But a lot of other people are doing that too. But just how we get from like 200 years ago to this trial where we are now is kind of what I'm interested in doing, because I'm really trying to explain how a mother can murder her 2 kids. I think we need to understand that, how that can happen, how we get to that place.
Right. Tell me the name of the books.
The second book, Chad Daybell, The One Mighty and Strong.
And the first book?
Money, Power, and Sex, the Lori Vallow Daybell trial by juror number 18.
All right, my thanks to Tom for chatting with me. He is here with his wife, and he has really seen this through and is really become interested in presenting, his viewpoint of how this whole thing works. All right, let's jump over to Larry. Larry Woodcock, happy to chat with him and have him share his thoughts about Kay's testimony yesterday, the trial thus far, and the Lori that he is seeing not only here in the trial, but in the interview that she did with Dateline. Here is Larry Woodcock. Larry, so nice seeing you. Wish you were here in person, but know that you have other things.
Oh man, it's always good seeing you, Nate.
Now, everybody wants to know why you're not here. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Life goes on. In this case, I've got two granddaughters that Kay and I are raising, and one of them, Ellie, is 10 years old, and Ash is 19, and she's a sophomore at McNeese. Ellie's in the fourth grade, and we are 99.5% finished remodeling our home from the hurricane 6 years ago. And I'm trying to move in this weekend. I'm trying to support Kay up in over in Phoenix, and just a lot of stuff going on. I was unable to make this trip. I will be up there in the near future, but right now our priority is just simply getting moved in our home, getting the girls situated in their rooms. We've got all their furniture in, and it's just life.
Like
Nate.
You said, life goes on. So have you been watching the
It
trial
does.
at all? Have you been following the past few weeks? And what are your thoughts?
I follow it through Kay. And honestly, this morning at 4 o'clock was the first time I've been able to sit there and for about an hour and a half, watch yours and Justin's commentary on it. Y'all just do amazing jobs. I mean, this is our third big rodeo with y'all, and I can't say enough how much support y'all provide, and the fair and honest support. I love listening to y'all. I'm not surprised in any way about Lori. And I think in her heart she knows she can't defend herself. You can't. I told you before, you can't defend the indefendable. And I just think that this is showboating now. She wants. I think she just wants the world to believe that she is not a murderer, but here she is. She's been convicted on 3 murders, and I don't know what she wants, but I know this here, that she'll never walk out of a prison alive. When she's in prison, it'll be in a black plastic bag.
Did you watch Kay's testimony yesterday, and what did you think of that?
That was I finally found it. It's in its entirety, and I seen snippets of it, and I'm telling you, Kay has waited 6 years, Nate, 6 years to confront Lori, and then in the end, it absolutely proved that Lori was not going to, in any way, provoke Kay. And when I heard Kay say, "Oh boy," I knew then Lori was in for it. In fact, the grandkids and I were watching it. Ash and I watched it, and she said, "Papa, did you hear that?" Mama said, "Oh boy," and she said, "I knew it was coming."
Right. Well, it was interesting because Lori, on some of these other witnesses, personal witnesses, has really drilled into them and really, raised a bunch of questions and gone after them. We didn't see that with Kay.
she she knows Kay knows every secret, and the last thing she was going to do was rattle that cage. It wasn't going to happen. I'm telling you right now, it was not going to happen. And I'm so proud of Kate. She answered the questions. She was thorough. Kay's not a highly emotional person. She never is. And I knew when she started crying on the stand that it was getting serious. And I think, and I know Lori knew that too. And I think Lori just knew maybe not to poke the bear. And I think she learned that a long time ago.
Right.
And just proud of Kay. Oh my God, she just did amazing work up there.
Yeah, out of all the witnesses, other than Adam Cox, she probably knows Kay the best, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Well, actually, I think that Kay actually knows Lori better than Adam.
But
Post.
In the adult life, yeah.
I do believe that because Adam, from my understanding, from within the family, Adam had a career, and he wasn't around Lori that much.
Right.
And so I think the closeness that Kay and Lori had for all those years, Kay knew her as good as anybody.
Right.
And like I said, I'm just proud of her. She did a magnificent job.
Larry, did the interview with Dateline with Lori, how she acted, did that stick out to you, or was that common for how you knew Lori, how she interacted with Keith for those 90 minutes and kind of filibustered? And is that common, Lori, or has she changed since her interactions with you years ago?
I think Lori has definitely changed. Lori was never one to be aggressive as far as conversations and so forth. I mean, she often spoke of her religion, but like Kay and I say, look, we'll be friends all day long. Don't mess with our religion and don't mess with our family. And, we'll get along fine. And so does it surprise me? Nate, I don't think it did. I think what somewhat surprised me is her flirtatious ways with in the interview. And I think that was handled correctly. And Keith is so brilliant at sometimes not even have to say a word, just a gesture, just a half a comment, and he can provoke a conversation. And I thought he did a masterful job. I heard a lot of people say they thought that Lori kicked his butt. And I said, well, what were you watching? I said, you better pay attention to what Keith was saying and how he responded and what he got out of Lori. And that's just my opinion. I thought Keith done a masterful job.
Well, the first 60 minutes or so of that interview, Lori wanted to talk all religion, all about her life after death experience. And the fact that they didn't use any of that, or just a very little, they didn't want to give her a platform to just spew whatever she wanted. And
that's all she's looking for. She wants a platform. It's the same thing she's doing in court. She wants a platform, and I'm not going to give her a platform, and I know Kay wasn't going to give her a platform, and I'm really disappointed in the fact that Lori didn't be more combative towards Kay, because I was absolutely wanting to see that. I did, but
and Kay was ready for it.
Kay was ready. 6 years ready.
Yeah.
6 years, the murder of our grandson. Yeah, she was ready.
What was telling to me, Larry, is when Lori said, "Did you see or hear me conspire to kill my brother?" And Kay said, "No, but I saw a lot of evidence you did." The natural follow-up would be, well, what evidence? But Lori did not open that door.
She wouldn't open that door.
Right. Right. That would have been fascinating to hear Kay then list the receipts, but.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that was what I was waiting for. Come on, Lori, open a door.
Right.
Let Kay turn loose and let her go after her.
Right.
After Lori.
Larry, is there anything you want to add?
Well, I want to thank everybody for their continued prayer and support. I don't think people realize how important that is to, and I hope they do. I do, because what we've had to go through for 6 years now is trying, and it's been bad on Kay's health, mental and physical. It's been bad on my health and my mental. We've both had a lot of anger issues we've had to deal with. Sometimes we get sharp with each other, and then we realize, we're not getting sharp at each other. We're just getting sharp at the circumstances.
Right. Well, good to see you, and we'll see when this trial wraps up, and then one more to go, Brandon Boudreaux, and then I think we're done.
I hope so. From now on, if there's an appeal, which there will be, obviously, it's on them now. And they need us. They know where we're at, and we'll be there. But I will be up there. I don't know when yet, but I'm definitely going to be up there.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you finish unpacking. I appreciate you making time. Good luck with the house, and we'll be in touch.
I'll tell you what, when you're 78 and you're trying to move by yourself, Nate, it's not as fun as it was when I was in my 30s and 40s.
I don't know if moving is ever fun, but I can't imagine doing it when I'm 78. You should be on a beach, Larry.
No, I got too much work to do. Got too many things to do.
All right. Take care.
And you have a great day. Tell your family hello, and tell that beautiful darling daughter of yours that I'm always amazed at her.
Well, I thank you, Larry. Okay, we'll see you. Thank you, Larry Woodcock. Nice to chat with him, catch up with him. I'll never forget, and I think those of us who were in Idaho during the trials, Larry coming in with the mints. Did he go to the Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and they gave him a big bag of those mints that you get when you leave the restaurants, and he was passing them around the courtroom, always, hey baby, hey buddy, hey son, hugging people. Just a very kind man. So thank you, Larry. Glad that you're watching from Louisiana. And as he said, life does go on. Life goes on for everybody, and including Lori Vallow Daybell. I don't know I can't imagine staying behind bars, all the time, the rest of your life, knowing that's your fate, but it is what it is. Okay, everybody. Now I want to hear from you. In fact, I'm going to play what you sent me. And again, I got so many of these. I tried to put together as many as I could. Don't be sad. Don't fret if I missed yours. And know that I'm going to play some of these, in the weeks going forward. And probably again, as the trial comes to an end, just to get your thoughts. But and I'm amazed again how many of you watch from all over the world, and I can't thank you. And thanks to the dudes who sent them in too. I appreciate having the mix of the men and the women here. Yesterday, in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, I asked yesterday for your your overall takeaway of the trial thus far in 10 seconds or less. And here's what you said.
My take on this week's trial, nothing else matters except what the jurors think of Lori. And she has sure showed herself this week.
Lori is showing her true colors. That's what I'm getting from this. Thanks.
This trial has showed that Lori is absolutely 100% all about herself, even more. We already knew she was selfish, but this is absolutely disgusting, and she could care less.
My one takeaway, if I had to tell someone who hasn't been watching it, I would say Lori is not doing herself any favors the way she's behaving in front of that jury. Not a good look.
Hi Nate, this is Jennifer. I think she is a joke. She's rude, disrespectful.
When Lori Vallow gets excited every time the judge mentions which days are going to be dark.
Hi Nate, Alicia here from Wichita, Kansas, and my biggest takeaway so far is I am amazed at the leeway the judge is giving Lori with her questioning, pro se or not.
Hi Nate, my name is David. I think Adam Cox did a wonderful job with his testimony, and I think that'll stick with the jurors.
Hi Nate, Hayley from a sunny England. I just wanted to say that obviously Lori is delusional around the whole religious aspect, and we don't really have that here in England, so it's fascinating to watch. Thank you.
This trial is a total circus.
I've learned from watching this trial that you should never try to represent yourself in court, especially if you're guilty, Lori.
Hi Nate, if it's one thing we can learn from Charles Vallow is if someone sounds the alarm, listen to them. Thanks.
Hello from the Gold Coast, Australia. I've been with you, Nate, from the beginning, from Hawaii days. And Lori, where are the kids? I want to know how Delulu Lori thinks she is going to get away with this.
Hi, Nate. My one takeaway from this trial has been that Lori is very aggressive with law enforcement, but not family and friends.
I would say that the thing that has stood out to me the most throughout this trial is the self-control of all the witnesses and how they do not share additional details.
Unfortunately, my takeaway is that evil can be personified in the form of a pretty blonde lady.
Hi, Nate. It's always been about sex, money, and power, and now murder.
Hi, Nate. I think Lori had a beautiful family, a devoted husband, a stable life, everything that one could dream of, the American dream, and she threw it all away.
So my takeaway is, why didn't a juror ask about Kay's testimony when she kept talking in the past tense of JJ?
In my opinion, Lori's been the prosecution's best witness.
Kayla here from Belgium. My one takeaway is just unbelievable regarding this trial. Just absolutely unbelievable.
Nate, perfect example of how we should not defend ourselves. Laurie's arguments are weak, she looks tired, and I don't think she's going to have the platform to tell us what she's about like she wanted.
Coming from the Space Coast, I nearly fell out of my chair when the judge said, if you want to compare yourself to a biblical figure, then I'll allow it.
Nell here from Bellingham, Washington. I think the trial is going very well for Charles to get justice. Lori is going down, even further down than she already was.
Don't flatter yourself, Lori.
My favorite part of the trial so far has been when Nancy Jo said, "Don't flatter yourself."
Christine from Chattanooga, Tennessee. The nail in Lori's coffin is, I will be like Nephi, and so will you.
Revenge. This is her way to attack some of the witnesses with her snarky, I'm gonna get you. Ah!
Nancy Jo is my hero. That's my one takeaway, and I have never missed a show of yours, and I'll proudly wear the faithful shirt.
Some of Lori's questions make me believe that she is going to put the blame for Charles's death as well on Tylee. It is pathetic and disgusting.
From Dublin, Ireland. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The truth will out. Thanks, Nate.
Hey, Nate, this is Dan watching from Nagano, Japan. I've been a juror twice, and my biggest takeaway is, why is Lori representing herself? She's in way over her head.
Hi, Nate. John Sommerhauser watching from Riverside, California. My takeaway, Lori Vallow is fast undermining her own defense. Thanks for asking.
My takeaway is how rudely arrogant she is and pissed over her chicken enchiladas.
Will the Chandler Police Department ever be held responsible for not investigating Lori and arresting her for Charles's death, which would have prevented all of those other murders?
I have two takeaways from this trial. Number one, prison hair isn't cute. And number two, I'll never be able to eat green chili enchiladas.
My one takeaway from the court trial so far is how patient the judge is being with Lori, considering he doesn't have to be.
I believe the 41 minutes that they did not call 911 to help save poor Charles will be overwhelming to the jury.
Girl, don't flatter yourself. Ba-ba-da-ba-da.
Don't flatter yourself.
You guys are great. I loved watching these, and I love hearing the accents from all over the place. I just, it's amazing to me how this program has grown and how many of you are watching every night. I really thank you. And there's so many, we could probably do a response to each one of your videos, certain points that, for instance, the one of you who mentioned that you were surprised that the jury didn't ask about Kay talking about JJ in past tense. That was something I had not thought about. But I also realized that sometimes the jurors probably realize that they kind of realize more in their mind than we might give them credit for, where they might be like, huh, she's talking about him in past tense. And it's possible too that maybe they did ask that question, and that the judge didn't allow it in because of there's certain limitations on what he is allowing in versus what he is not allowing in, just because of their Idaho crimes. So anyway, we'll see if more comes out about that in the next week or so. I don't know if it will, though, because from here we're going to the expert witnesses, and we'll see. It could on Lori's defense. I want to play one more reaction. You know, Peggy is the one that gathers all your comments every night and your questions and makes sure that everybody's behaving. She's our moderator. We often call her the Momerator. She helps with these shirts. Guilty of following East Idaho News. You can get yours today. Peggy sent me, I asked Peggy to share her thoughts about the trial thus far, and here is her reaction.
Hello. My main takeaway from all of this is there were a lot of victims, and it could have all been avoided with divorce, not death.
Divorce, not death. Interesting point, Peggy. Thank you for sending that to me. And we have a lot more to talk about in this coming week. So here is what we're going to do tomorrow. No Courtroom Insider because it's Saturday. And here we go. Just getting this up. Come Sunday, though, we will be back. We'll be back and we'll give a preview as far as what we can expect next week and have more of your questions. Tonight, we do need to stop and remember Charles Vallow, who passed away far too soon. And what I wanted to do tonight is, I'm just pulling it up on my computer here, is read from his obituary. We often, I don't know about you, do you read the obituaries when they come in? I do. And most of them. And when we come to East Idaho News, and there's just some really good ones, and you kind of learn a lot about the person. But this was Charles's obituary. Born 17th of August, 1956. Death 11th of July, 2019. Age 62. He was cremated. Leland Charles Anthony Vallow of Houston, Texas, left this life to meet his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on July 11th, 2019. Hold up, I'm going to pull up this picture while I read this so you don't have to see my face. There we go. Actually, let me just show you the obituary. That might be easier. One moment here. Can you see that? Let me make it bigger. He was born August 17, 1956, to Leland Eli and Tilda June Vallow of Lake Charles, Louisiana. He was preceded in death by both parents. He was a committed father to sons Nicholas Charles Cole, Zachary Chase Zach, and Joshua Jackson JJ, and most proud that Cole and Zach earned their college degrees. Youngest son JJ, age 7, is a child of special needs with whom Charles was adoringly engaged to ensure his success in life. As a brother, he positively impacted all our lives, going far beyond the call of duty and expecting nothing in return. We will cherish him forever. He was fun, loving, kind, understanding, and compassionate. Charles was a 1974 graduate of Barbe High School and attended McNeese State University, where he received a scholarship to pitch for the McNeese Cowboys. He was a member of Kappa Sigma fraternity and cherished many good times with his fraternity brothers. In 1975, as a freshman, he set a new McNeese University record by striking out 13 batters in the first college game he pitched. In 1977, he was drafted to play semi-pro ball in Houston. A gifted athlete, he had a passion for physical fitness and was an avid fan of the Dallas Cowboys and Houston Astros. As an experienced financial consultant, Charles guided thousands of families to safe and secure retirements. He practiced his profession as he lived his life: relationships, integrity, communication, and service to others. At American Equity, he was honored for being a top producer and ensuring the financial health and security for many. Left to cherish his memory are his three sons, Nicholas Charles of Dallas, Zachary Chase Vallow of Austin, Joshua Jackson of Phoenix, and siblings Teresa, John, Susan Macaulay, Jerry Vallow and Melanie, Larry Woodcock and Kay, and Robert Vallow and Christine. A memorial celebration of his life will be held August 3rd at the Lake Charles Civic Center. And so tonight, we remember Charles Vallow as his trial regarding his death continues to move forward here in Phoenix. I want to thank our sponsor, Alan Browning of Browning Law. They are a legal firm in Idaho Falls who help people with legal help. And Alan Browning, you can learn more about them by going online to their website and seeing the services that they provide. Let me give you some shout outs and some questions. Doug and Barb, Mary McGuire, Heather Holzer, thank you all for watching. Harriet Bass, Opal Deagle, Marnay Sunberg, Teresa Reeves, Jesse Prey, it's your birthday. So many birthdays. My birthday's next week. I'm turning 44. Oh my goodness, I'm getting old. Natalie Huber, thank you for being here. We have people watching from Finland. Amazing. Northeast Canada, Miami, Florida, Iran? Serious? No. I wonder if that's a joke. If you're really watching in Iran, thank you. Egypt. I'm choosing you over one of the 7 wonders of the world. Don't do that. You're going to regret that forever. Go out and explore. I say that as I'm like the ultimate homebody and I'm being, stretching myself to go out and explore Arizona. Zimbabwe, amazing. Cody, Wyoming, and Dingle, Idaho. Thank you all for watching and for supporting East Idaho News and for supporting us with your donations and your t-shirt purchases. It's been so fun to see many of you showing up in court with your t-shirts. And I want to thank you. I do want to say one thing before I get to your questions, that many of you are so kind. You asked for photos inside the courthouse, but we cannot take photos inside the courthouse. And so I have told many of you we'll do it after outside. And I never seem to catch up with you. So I apologize if you were hoping to meet or get a photo. But I do leave the courthouse every day at lunch. I go outside and do a video, and then I do one at the end of, when I leave at the end of the day around 4:30. And let's go to your questions now. Who's coughing? Is it you? Give that man a cough drop. We talked about that earlier. Yes, we will try to figure out. Hopefully by Monday they feel better. 3-day weekend can do wonders. Why can't the public hear the jurors' questions? We kind of talked about that, Kelly, that sometimes it's up to the judge to decide whether if the questions should be let in or if the questions won't be asked and who will ask them. So that's kind of the protocol there. Okay. What was Lori's reaction when she saw Colby walk into court? Lori, and Lori is asking this. I don't think it's Lori Vallow asking this, but Lori actually, Colby was in there first. Lori is one of the last persons to be brought in, and she didn't see him in the beginning. She walked over, and I noticed, though, Colby was just kind of stared at her, and she didn't turn around. It took some time before I think she realized that he was there, and Colby told me that she smiled at him for about 10 seconds, and he just kind of looked at her. So I'm sure that once she realized he was there, I don't know if her mood changed or behavior changed. I'm sure she would have loved to go talk with him, but you're not allowed to talk with the defendant. Nate, has Lori ever looked at you or motioned to you or talked to you in the courtroom? From Angie. She hasn't tried to talk to me. She has looked at me the other day. we were waiting for the jury to be brought in, and she turned around and we made eye contact, and she smiled. She smiled at me, but we haven't talked. Lori did not give Charles back his phone. Do you think she saw his text from his date and was jealous? That's what she has said. I believe she said that in her police interview, or she accused Charles of having an affair. And remember, this is her story, that she saw the phone. As far as why she wouldn't give it back, she probably wanted to go through it. But obviously with this deal with Alex planned the night before, most likely, that the phone was just kind of the excuse, I guess, or the reason they kind of came up with this story. You know, I can say this and you can say that. That's what the whole trial is about, the conspiracy. How much did they conspire together? Can the judge impose punishment on Lori, who seems to add to her questions? He's already talked to her about that you cannot add testimony to your questions. You need to keep it simply to a question. Don't add, oh, that's interesting, stuff like that. He could probably continue to admonish her to stop. I don't know what further punishments he could give on her. He's giving her a lot of leeway. Many of you have said that. One of you said that in the video I just played, that you're shocked at how much leeway he's giving. He has to be careful, because this is going to go up on appeal, and an appellate court could be like, oh, well, maybe Lori actually did have a valid point there. In fact, she did the other day on redirect. The prosecution went outside the scope of the questions that were there. You have to stick with your questions. And at the end, the judge said, I do believe the defendant was right. The prosecution did go beyond the scope. And then he asked Lori, if you would like to do further cross-examine direct, you can. And she declined. How did the jury react when Lori talked to Nancy Joe? Angie is asking this. They were interested in the conversation. The courtroom, I would say, was more tense than it's been on other days, because Lori was obviously feeling strong feelings about Nancy Joe communicating with her husband. Are the witnesses not allowed to talk about JJ and Tylee? If they are asked, the witnesses can only talk about what they are asked, and they can only answer the questions. They cannot give a monologue. They cannot, give a narrative. They have to simply ask the questions. If they were asked, what do you know about JJ? Then it could open the door. Could the judge make Lori refer to Charles as the victim instead of my husband? Well, he technically was both, but no. Because I don't know if the victim is a word that the defense might not believe was there. The defense's argument is that Charles wasn't the victim. Tylee and Lori could have been the victims because Charles was attacking them. That's their argument. So I think that she just says, my husband. Wendy, is there not a bailiff in the courtroom? I thought I remembered from the Idaho trials that a bailiff would hand things to witnesses and also retrieve witnesses who are being called to the stand. That's another interesting observation. I noticed the same thing. In Idaho, during the trials, there were far more bailiffs and deputies in there, like 1, 2, 3, probably 5. And this trial, there's like 2, and they stand over by Lori. It's just run differently here. For instance, when a witness comes out, Trina Kay goes and gets the witnesses, and when she opens the door, she announces loudly, the next witness is Adam Cox. The next witness is Kay Woodcock, and they take the stand. The other interesting thing is that in Idaho, when the judge walks out, the bailiff will yell, please stand for the Honorable Judge Stephen Boyce. And we'll stand, and the judge will say, thank you, please be seated. And then please stand for the jury when the jury walks in. The judge's clerk does that now. One of his assistants is not like a bailiff thing, and I don't know if that has to do with the powers and the duties. And then when the witness needs to be handed a piece of evidence, the prosecutor will say, can I approach, or can my paralegal approach? Just different systems. It's all done different. When I worked in Virginia, things were done differently too. It is a little odd to be like, this judge is pretty chill as far as formalities from what I've observed. When he'll come in, sometimes he'll be in there and like no one will stand. It's just kind of awkward. Is it possible that Charles' phone was recording when he set it down? Oh, that's a good question. Perhaps you wonder if they were able to obtain whatever it was recording, or if Lori erased it, or if it was recording. Maybe we'll hear more from the experts next week on that. Good question. Some of Kay's questions leaned to JJ being gone. Do you think the jurors picked up on that? Yeah, I think that they may have. because she spoke of him in past tense. If a witness last saw Lori at the Idaho trial, are they advised to not answer truthfully under oath if they asked when they last saw her? No, I don't think they would ever be advised to not answer truthfully. I think they would have to answer truthfully. I'm trying to think which witness. I guess Kay would have seen her there, but Kay wasn't asked that. And I'm sure that the detectives obviously saw her there, but no one has flat out. Well, one said that he reviewed his testimony from the Idaho trial, so that did come in. Were you surprised to hear about Charles and Tylee's relationship? No, I wasn't. I talked about this last night, just that, Tylee was a teenager and I'm sure there was a lot of emotions in the home, I guess you could say. And with Lori doing what Lori was doing, there was probably some frustration. So I wasn't like shocked, but I could see there's a lot of friction in the teenage years, and I have a daughter who's entering them soon. I'm not ready. Did Adam make eye contact with Lori? Yes, she did. And was Uncle Rex in court? Yeah, he's been coming. Debbie asks. He's been coming. He was there with Adam yesterday when Adam testified and walked him in and walked him out. But I think he's been there almost every other day. Was Lori nervous when she questioned Kay? I don't know if nervous is the word, but she definitely had a different attitude compared to some of the others. If you watch, it's very clear. She was more of the timid Lori, more of the held back Lori, more of the reserved Lori. Let me see what else. I may be reading into this, Sydney, but do you notice the difference between how Lori speaks and to females versus males? No, I don't know if you're reading into it. I think it's an observation. She definitely does. Look at the differences between her interview with Keith and Brianna here in Arizona. Very different attitude, very different feelings. I think it's a very astute observation there that many people have. Jolene, do you think the jurors are wondering why everyone is speaking of the children in past tense? Good question. We've talked a little bit about that. I'm sure it's come up. Is everyone who has testified released from their subpoena? I don't know. They don't really address that here. So that's a great question. I don't know. I was going to look into that and find somebody who could give me those answers. So hopefully I will get that to you and let you know. Just going through any final questions. I think we're good. I think we got them. Everybody, I thank you for watching every night this week. Here is where you can find me. I'm on all the socials. I generally do Facebook the most just because it's simple for me. I'm going to post, I think, some adventures from my next few days here in Arizona, just as I go out and explore. Whoops, here we go. This is where you can find me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Here is where you can watch the trial. If you haven't bookmarked or subscribed to our channel, that'd be amazing. Doesn't cost you anything. Next week, the trial is starting early on Monday and Tuesday, a half hour early. And that is when you can tune into our YouTube channel and watch live. So actually, add 30 minutes to each of these. It's going to be 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, and 1:30 next week because we're starting at 10 a.m. on Monday and Tuesday. So that is where you can watch. We actually go live a little bit earlier on our channel to help you, have it bookmarked and whatnot. So hopefully no technical issues. There were a couple of tech issues this week with Court TV being the pool. Also realize that there's, dozens of outlets that are pooling this video, and the media room is in a non-cell phone friendly room to get a signal. So everyone's kind of, it's smaller than this hotel room. It's very small, very small. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great weekend, and I appreciate you being here, and we will be back on Sunday night for another edition of Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton. Take care.